Zidane Danny, Electro Ninja here, and welcome back to Electro Ninja's Lab, and the final video of the day. Hopefully I got all five of these videos out today, but who knows, maybe this is coming out the next day. Anyways, like I said, welcome back to Electro Ninja's Lab. So, now, this is a bit of some interesting news. So, recently, NVIDIA came out with a list of games. Now, obviously, I'm not 100% certain on exact details, but from what I've heard, Final Fantasy IX is possibly getting a remake. I think that one's like the least I've heard anything about, so I'm assuming that's not actually true. But they also had a list of every single Kingdom Hearts game that currently exists, including that of Unchained Key and Kingdom Hearts 4. And those are the two things that we're going to be talking about in this video. Now, the first thing that listed was Kingdom Hearts 4, with Unchained Key being the thing that happened afterwards, or listed afterwards in that situation. Now, that got me thinking, what could that actually be? Could that be that it's not actually Unchained Key by what we think of? Is it possible that it is not actually the phone game, but is instead actually something new? So we're going to start with Unchained Key, because Kingdom Hearts 4, if that's actually happening, then that's a huge deal. Obviously, and unfortunately, there's just not that much information that we could actually go on. More than likely, if it is going to be happening, it's just going to be something really simple. Basically, we'll get some information probably later this year as well as next year as we get more and more stuff throughout the year. Especially considering the fact that it's a big year for Kingdom Hearts. So, obviously, we'll talk more about that as things come together. But, as for Unchained Key, that makes no sense. Let me explain. Basically, for NVIDIA to say that they are going to be getting Unchained Key on the PC, or whatever it is, that makes no sense. Because the fact of the matter is that Unchained Key doesn't exist anymore. Union Cross doesn't exist anymore. Dark Road exists, but the rest of the basically all of Unchained Key is gone. All that you can now do is just watch the cutscenes. So that made me realize, wait a minute, it's not Unchained Key, or at least it's unlikely that it's the same Unchained Key that we've been thinking. Instead, it could be something completely new. Now, obviously, calling it Union Cross makes no sense at this point, because of the fact that Union Cross is completely meant to be the multiplayer side of it, not the main story. So having it still be called Unchained Key is actually really smart, allowing the players to replay through the story, but in a better format. Something that I've been asking for a while is that Unchained Key gets remade. Remade in a new format. Instead of you playing as the player, as you've been called, you would instead be able to play as Ephemer, more than likely, with a few other cameo appearances from the other characters. And basically, they would allow you to play through the story, specifically focusing on the important pieces, such as basically everything that happens in the main world, dealing a lot more with what Ephemer and his gang are dealing with, rather than all of those random quests that you have to deal with by going out to the rest of the world. And honestly, a lot of that is really pointless. But they would basically be able to cut most of that out in order to make a solid game that they've possibly been working on the entire time. Basically, from the beginning of when Unchained Key started making its rounds, they kind of knew that something was not going to work here. They knew that Key was a failure. Just plain and simple, it was a failure. They knew it from the beginning. The card game was awful, and while it had some important lore, they realized that it was not going to make good headway here in America. So they decided to remake it to put it onto the phone with Unchained Key, making a completely new game that, while still crappy, it wasn't as bad as what we were seeing with Key. And with that, they were able to kind of start brainstorming. They were able to then look at the audience reception and see, oh, most of these players actually despise the game, only really playing it because of the fact that they know that there is quite a bit of lore here. Especially because of the fact that if you know about this, you actually know that most of the people who would come into Unchained Key came in during certain big events, such as when they revealed Classic Kingdom. When that came out, everyone rushed to it because they really wanted to play some stuff for Kingdom Hearts. Obviously, played it a bunch until it was done. They'd played through everything, gotten everything taken care of, they were happy. And then, obviously, then the event where you could get your name into, well, Kingdom Hearts 3. Everyone jumped onto the occasion. But on top of that, as people realized more and more, and were hearing more and more that that Unchained Key / Union Cross at this point was really important to the lore, because multiple people were coming to this for certain reasons, they realized very quickly, oh, yeah, this is really bad. People would play through the game as much as they could, but at the same time, it was really exhausting. To the point where they decided eventually, okay, we'll give you an auto function. And people just use the auto function for basically the entire game, until now when it's finally just, you can watch everything. But then came Dark Road. And Dark Road is a much better game, first off, but a lot of these factors are still prevalent. And a lot of these fans want to play the game so that they can learn the lore, but at the same time, it is really, really a pain to do so. You have to read this stuff. And let's just be honest, video game nerds don't really like reading, especially now. Like, sure, obviously, you're still gonna do it, but at the same time, it's like, you'd prefer not to if you can. So, get voice acting done. Get an entire cast, and make it, as you're realizing that things are going downhill with this game, very quickly, you get the game story done, but as soon as you realize that, but as you're doing that, you also start forming another team. Basically, this team would come from Union Cross as it got completed, and they would come together to continue to make the game, remaking it into an actual fully fledged 3D game. Now, obviously, all of this is just speculation at this point. But if this is actually the case of what this Unchained Key is that Nvidia has just hinted at, that would be huge. Many fans would be falling in love with this, especially considering the fact that you don't need an Nvidia to play this game. Like, at its current level, using Nvidia is basically overkill. So, is completely overkill, because this could probably play on a frickin' PS2. So, what do? You make a better game. And that's what they've been doing. And more than likely, Kingdom Hearts 4 is going to be doing the exact same thing. Kingdom Hearts 4 is probably also coming. Now, I want to actually raise the discussion. Many people have been bringing up the conversation of, oh, Kingdom Hearts 4 isn't actually coming out. Basically, they are not getting their hopes up because they know that if they do, and it ends up not being the case, then they're going to be upset. But here is the facts. Kingdom Hearts 4 was promised. Now, we didn't know exactly when it was going to happen, but shortly after Kingdom Hearts 3 released, Tetsuya Nomura actually did say something. He said that Kingdom Hearts 4, there would be one game between 3 and 4. What game was that? Melody of Memory. And we've gotten it. Now, obviously, Dark Road also came out during that time, but the fact still remains that Dark Road was actually very short-lived. And it wasn't actually a new game. It was basically taking the concepts that had already existed in Union Cross and converted it into a continuation of the story, continuing the story basically from where they left off. And now the story continues as we get more and more close to the end of this story. The end of Kingdom Hearts. And we're finding out more and more lore as we continue. And needless to say, some things are looking very interesting in Dark Road. I don't know much about it because I haven't been playing it, but the fact remains that things are going to be getting more and more insane as we continue in this journey. So, what remains to be seen? Well, we'll have to wait and see. But I, for one, am super excited to see what new information comes out about Kingdom Hearts 4, Kingdom Hearts Union Cross, and possibly also a Final Fantasy IX remake. I'm not 100% certain if that was actually real or if people just talked about that, so that's why I didn't actually bring too much information about that. But I heard that it was a possibility, so maybe? I didn't see it in the real post, so that's why I'm not certain. But I didn't look very far in that. So, who knows? We'll see exactly how things play out as we continue with this series. But I, for one, am super excited to see how Kingdom Hearts continues. Because this is just the beginning. It honestly is. And more than likely, we'll be getting some new trailers before too long. Seriously. Many people are probably freaking out, like, where the heck is, what's going on? What's going on with Kingdom Hearts? What's going on with Final Fantasy? I think that, honestly, everything is just about around the corner. The thing is, remember what happened with 15. And remember what happened with Kingdom Hearts 3. They got announced way too early. And as such, people's expectations shot through the roof. The whole multiple year, upwards of 10 plus years of these games being in development, and it took them forever for them to finally come out. So now that they are finally out, people were excited, and Kingdom Hearts fans got a good, were absolutely pleased, but Final Fantasy 15 fans, not so much. So they're learning from their they're learning their lessons and deciding to be a little bit more cautious. And as things get more and more progressed, maybe we'll get a release date within the next event or whatever that Square is going to be coming to. At least for Final Fantasy 16. As for the Kingdom Hearts stuff, we just have to wait and see. Considering the fact that next year is a really big year, like I said, for Kingdom Hearts, yeah, we're going to be talking about Kingdom Hearts a lot next year, along with all of the rest of the stuff that is coming. So, definitely stay tuned, and make sure to join us as we continue this journey. And if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like, leave your thoughts and theories down in the comments below. If you are going to leave a theory, make sure to say theory review somewhere in your comment. And of course, please subscribe and ring the notification bell if you haven't yet. Because, like I said, we really need you guys to subscribe, because things are going to be getting more and more crazy as the journey continues. But, and of course, if you guys do want to support the channel, please make even more, then definitely head down to the description and check out all of our links down there, including our social medias, our other channels, and ways you can support us financially, including the merch store, the book, and of course our Patreon, which a big thank you to our current patron, Sheen. But anyways, guys, I've been Electro Ninja, and I will see you guys next time. But on!